Hi, it's Wednesday. That means it's time for another video edition of Widower Wednesday. I'm Abel Keogh, author of Dating a Widower, and we're doing a special holiday edition of Widower Wednesday today. I don't have my hat, but still here to answer your holiday questions, and I'm actually in the car running some errands today, waiting for Marathon Girl, and so while I'm waiting for her to go do something, I'm taking a few minutes here to answer some questions that have come in recently. And today we're going to talk about holiday traditions and making room for you inside of the widower's holiday traditions. So I got an email here. I'm going to read part of this email, and she kind of expresses a lot of the concerns I get over this holiday season, of trying to fit in and maybe blend families and do kind of the things where you can kind of start your own holiday traditions and make your memories. But this person here writes, she goes, "Hi Abel, the widower I'm engaged to is steeped in holiday traditions for he and his kids. This year Thanksgiving is at his family's home. Christmas is spent with the late wife's family. They'll switch next year. Between the two holidays and lots of other activities and parties that he feels he needs to attend, I think that there's no time for us. When I ask him about doing something with me and my kids, my widower says this is the way we've always done it. What can I say or suggest to make the holidays a special time for both of us?" So a really good question. And again, I think it's something that comes up quite a bit. And part of it goes back to, I've posted in the past that part of making a new life with a widower and starting a new relationship is starting new traditions and doing new things. And it's not always easy to do, especially if the widower's been doing things for, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years with the late wife. It's kind of hard to go in and break those. But again, if he's out there starting a new relationship, there has to be some give here, and you've got to be able to make a relationship where you guys can start your own holiday traditions. So let me tell you what Marathon Girl and I did once we were serious with each other when the first holiday season came around, and that might help give you some insight on how you can tackle it. So when we were first dating, and we were getting serious, the holiday season was approaching. We had probably been dating about 6 months, and Marathon Girl knew an engagement was coming soon. We weren't engaged, but we kind of understood that that's where things were going, and we were going to get married soon. And the Thanksgiving holiday was coming up, and a couple weeks before, she said, "Well, what are we going to do for Thanksgiving?" And to be honest, I hadn't given it much thought. I was thinking, like, I don't know, go to my family's house. What do you want to do? And as she sat there, we were talking. She says, "Well, we need to kind of decide what we're going to do as a couple. Since we're serious, and this is where our and our relationship is going in a serious direction, probably towards marriage. We need to kind of work out what we're going to do for the holidays." And I was like, "Okay, great, whatever." And part of it, the reason it was kind of easy for me, is I didn't have a lot of necessarily big holiday traditions that Marathon Girl had. Her family's a lot more into holiday traditions than my family or my late wife's family was. So I agreed, and we sat down and we kind of worked things out, and I think we decided that that year we'd do Thanksgiving with my family and Christmas with her family, and if there was a party or two, we'd kind of work those things out. But the whole point of the exercise was, she kind of put it in my mind that, hey, we're a couple. What are we going to start doing? And we need to start making our own traditions as a couple. And so we came up with a plan for the holiday season, and then the next big thing we did, and giving him somewhat advance notice, is we told her family and my family, this is the way it's going to be. We're going to spend Thanksgiving with my family, and we're going to spend Christmas with her family, and we'll flop next year. We'll switch them out, and that's just how we're going to do it, because we knew we had to do what was best for our relationship. And usually it's, when I get these questions, it's harder on the widower side, because they're usually the ones with all the traditions. But in my case, it was harder for Marathon Girl because her family was the one with the traditions. But part of the compromise that she made was that, well, in order to spend like Thanksgiving or certain things with my family, that meant maybe missing out on some things with her family. So the first thing you've got to understand is if you're in a serious relationship, this is really about putting the two of you first and figuring something out. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, you should do this or do that. It's something you got to to decide for yourselves. But remember, what's important is that you're making a decision that's best for you as a couple and as a family going forward. And I can't say what that is, but you have to kind of have that in the top of your mind, because the more the longer you let other people override your own decisions and what's best for you as a couple, it's going to be harder to make these changes later on. So come up. So put each other first and come up with a compromise. You got to remember that there's no solutions, there's only trade-offs, and there's not going to be a perfect solution that's going to make everybody happy. I think what's most important though is what's going to make you guys happy. And if there's lots of kids involved, and I'm talking younger kids here, not adult kids, but if there's younger kids, there's some kind of compromise that can be reached that, where they can still feel the holiday spirit and maybe do some of the things that they're used to as well. But I think the second thing is communication. I think a lot of times people don't know how to communicate these changes with friends or family members. And I think it's, again, it's going to depend on who you're talking to. But for me, a Marathon Girl was like, hey, I approached my family and I told them, this is the way that we're going to do it. You can be on board or not be on board, but this is the way, Marathon Girl and I have talked. We decided this was the best for us and for our relationship, and we communicated it out. Julie communicated it out with her family. And, if people were resentful, I can't remember. There might have been some people that had a hard time with it, but for years we kept that a tradition up, and we were just forefront about the reasons we were doing it. And we were like, this isn't personal. It's not against you guys. It's nothing personal against her family or my family, why we're doing it this way. We want to do something that's best for us. And so I think if you can, put it in those terms that, hey, I'm starting a new chapter here, or, my life has changed a little bit, so we got to make changes to these traditions. And I really hate, in this letter here, she brought up the excuse is, this is the way we've always done it. And I get it. There's traditions and that's the way you've always done it, but that's also a really bad reason. It's like, think about, why are you doing this? If there is a tradition and you run into resistance with the widower, maybe one thing to talk about is, well, why are we doing it? I mean, just because you've always done it doesn't mean it's necessarily the right thing to do or the best thing to do for you or your family. And again, I can't say what's right or wrong here, but maybe come back to it and say, well, why are we, maybe have him think through it, and it might take some time to go back and say, why are we doing this? What is the reason for doing this? What is the purpose behind this? Finally, I guess the other things when it comes to holiday traditions is don't be afraid to modify them. So I talked early on how Marathon Girl and I, where we came up with this thing that, one year is with Thanksgiving with her family, one year is Christmas with mine, and maybe some parties thrown in between. As our family grew bigger, a lot of these activities and a lot of these things got harder to actually go to. So there were some years where instead of maybe going to my parents' family, we were like, hey, why don't we do it at our house? We have the biggest family here. Do you guys want to come to our house and do Christmas? There were times where maybe we had to skip a party or skip other things just because our family was growing in size, and it just made it easier to do it on a different day. So, it's not only coming up with your own traditions, but understanding when you need to modify them, because life changes. And it's been paramount that, when we have changed a tradition or maybe wanted to do something different, that we just communicated out a reason for it. And, there have been years where it's been like, the time to spend Christmas with my family, and they've come to my house because we have a bigger house. We can have everybody there. In a lot of ways, it was easier. And like for my mom, it was like, oh, great, I don't have to get all the house ready and stuff. It's made it an easier Christmas for her. So, you got to really think and decide what's going to work for you. But the important thing is you've got to kind of do what's best for you as a couple and best for you guys as a family. And simply saying, hey, that's the way it's done, that doesn't cut it. Think about things that you can do and make new memories. And that's one of the great things about these traditions. Making new traditions with Marathon Girl is that now the two of us, we have memories together that we couldn't have made otherwise. And we have things that we do on Christmas and maybe a party or two or whatever, but we have things that we do where we have our memories and our things, and we've started over and just made some new things, and it's honestly been great. And and honestly, Marathon Girl was the driver on this, and yeah, I was a little bit skeptical, and I don't know if this is going to work, kind of thing. But one of the things that she taught me is that it's important to put each other first, and it's important to communicate these changes and do so in a great way. And I have no regrets about these holidays changes that we've made in these holidays and the holiday traditions that we have, and can honestly say that my best holidays have been with Marathon Girl and with our kids. Because we've been able, I've put her first, and we've kind of put our kids first, and things have just worked out. So don't be afraid to make new traditions. Talk to your widower, come up with something that there's some give and take in here. Figure out what'll work best for you guys, and then communicate those changes out. Let people know it's not personal, but make new memories, make new holiday traditions. It's the best thing you can do during this season. It'll strengthen your relationship and make it better. I'm Abel Keogh. This is Widower Wednesday. Don't forget to subscribe or comment below, and I'll see you later.